Hello everyone. Welcome to Dark Romance. Tonight, step into the shadows of Blackthorn Estate, where secrets are buried beneath stone walls, loyalty is tested, and love can become the most dangerous promise of all. This is The Blackthorn Oath, an original Dark Romance audiobook. Dim the lights, get comfortable, and let the story begin.
The rain fell without mercy. It pounded against the streets of Raven's Hollow, turning the city's glowing lights into blurred streaks across the pavement. Midnight had swallowed every sound except the distant rumble of thunder and the rhythmic click of Elara Hart's boots as she hurried through the empty alley. She glanced over her shoulder. Nothing. Still. The uneasy feeling refused to leave. For 3 years, she had lived like this, always looking behind her, always expecting a shadow to step from the darkness. People called it paranoia. She called it survival. A gust of wind tugged at her long chestnut hair as she pulled her coat tighter around herself. Her apartment was only a few blocks away. Once she reached it, she'd lock the door, pour another cup of bitter coffee, and spend the rest of the night examining the old case files spread across her dining table. Her father's murder. Officially, it had been ruled a robbery gone wrong. She had never believed that. Not after the strange phone calls, not after the missing evidence, not after every witness had either disappeared or died. Someone powerful had buried the truth, and Elara had spent the last 3 years digging it back up. Tonight, she believed she had found the final piece. Inside the leather satchel, hanging at her side, rested a small black flash drive. It contained financial records linking politicians, judges, and business executives to a criminal empire that had operated in the shadows for decades. One name appeared more often than any other: Damian Blackthorn, the most feared man in the country. To the public, he was a billionaire investor whose fortune stretched across shipping companies, luxury hotels, and private security firms. Behind closed doors, people whispered a different title: the King of Blackthorn. No photographs ever showed him smiling. No interviews existed. Those who claimed to have crossed him rarely spoke about it twice. Elara had spent months convincing herself he was the villain behind everything. Now she intended to prove it. She reached her apartment building and slipped inside, the old elevator groaning as it carried her to the 6th floor. The hallway lights flickered, casting long shadows along the walls. Too quiet, her instincts screamed. Her hand drifted toward the small canister of pepper spray in her coat pocket. The apartment door stood exactly as she'd left it. Locked. She exhaled slowly. "You're imagining things?" she whispered to herself. The key turned. The door opened. Darkness greeted her. She reached for the light switch. A deep voice emerged from the shadows. "You're late." Elara froze. Every muscle in her body locked. She couldn't see him, only hear him. Calm, measured, dangerously composed. Her heart slammed against her ribs. "Who's there?" Silence. Then the soft scrape of polished shoes across the wooden floor. A tall figure stepped into the faint light spilling through the rain-speckled window. Tailored black suit, broad shoulders, hands tucked casually into his pockets. His face remained half hidden, but his gray eyes caught the light like steel. Cold, unwavering, watching her as though he'd been expecting this moment for years. "You've been searching for me," he said quietly. She swallowed. "Damian Blackthorn?" He inclined his head, neither confirming nor denying it. "I've read every article you've written, Miss Hart." His voice held no anger. That frightened her more. "You've risked your life chasing ghosts. I chase the truth." A flicker of something unreadable crossed his expression. "So did your father." The word struck her like a blow. You knew him? I did. Did you kill him? For the first time, the silence stretched between them. When Damian finally answered, his voice was almost gentle. No. One word. Steady. Certain. She wanted to believe it. She hated that a part of her almost did. Then came the sound that changed everything. A sharp crack echoed from somewhere outside. Glass exploded inward. Damian moved before she could even react. His arm wrapped around her waist as he pulled her to the floor. A bullet tore through the room where she'd been standing only a heartbeat earlier. The window shattered completely. Rain and broken glass sprayed across the apartment. Damian's body shielded hers. Another shot rang out. Closer this time. He looked toward the broken window, his expression turning deadly. They found you. Elara stared at him, breathless. Who? His jaw tightened. The people who murdered your father. Outside, footsteps raced across the rooftop. Inside, Damian slowly rose to his feet, extending one gloved hand toward her. His eyes never left the darkness beyond the broken window. If you stay here, he said, you'll be dead before sunrise. He finally looked down at her. Come with me. The room smelled of rain, shattered glass, and gunpowder. Elena's pulse thundered in her ears. She stared at Damian's outstretched hand, but made no move to take it. I don't even know if you're telling the truth. His expression remained unreadable. You shouldn't. Another shot ripped through the apartment. The bullet struck the wall behind them, spraying plaster across the hard wood floor. Damian reacted instantly. He drew a compact pistol from beneath his jacket and fired twice toward the rooftop opposite the apartment. The shots were precise, controlled, buying only a few precious seconds. We're leaving. I'm not going anywhere with you. You already are. Before she could protest, he caught her wrist, not painfully, but firmly, and guided her toward the hallway. She yanked against his grip. Let go. You can fight me, he said calmly, or you can survive long enough to ask your questions. The hallway lights suddenly went dark. A loud explosion echoed from the stairwell. Smoke rolled through the corridor. Someone had cut the building's power. They're inside, Damian muttered. From somewhere below came the unmistakable sound of boots climbing the stairs, fast, purposeful, not police. Hunters. Damian pressed a small earpiece. Marcus, a voice answered immediately. East side secured, 30 seconds. We only have 10. Understood. Damian slipped a flashlight from his pocket, its narrow beam slicing through the darkness. Stay behind me. Elara hated herself for obeying. They moved through the smoke, every step echoing in the silent building. Halfway down the hallway, 3 masked figures emerged from the shadows. One raised a rifle. Damian pushed Elara behind him. The hallway erupted. Gunfire cracked like thunder, bullets punching into walls and doors. Damian's movements were astonishingly efficient. He advanced only when necessary, using the narrow corridor to keep the attackers from surrounding them. The masked figures retreated, disappearing into the smoke as alarms finally began to blare throughout the building. Move! He guided Elara toward the emergency exit. Cold rain hit her face the moment the door burst open. A sleek black SUV slid around the corner, stopping inches from the curb. The driver's window rolled down. A broad-shouldered man with close-cropped dark hair glanced at Damian. Took you long enough? Drive. Marcus didn't ask another question. The rear door swung open. Damian looked at Elara. You have 5 seconds. She looked back toward her apartment building. Police sirens echoed in the distance. More shadows appeared in broken windows above. Whoever those people were, they weren't leaving. She climbed inside. The door slammed shut. The SUV accelerated into the storm. For several minutes, no one spoke. Rain hammered against the windows, the city lights faded behind them, replaced by winding mountain roads. Elena finally found her voice. "Where are you taking me?" "My estate." "I'm not your prisoner." "No." He looked out the window. "You're my responsibility." She laughed bitterly. "That's a strange way to describe kidnapping." "I didn't choose tonight." "No, they did." His tone never changed. "You uncovered something you weren't supposed to see." She instinctively reached for her satchel. Gone. Her heart dropped. "The flash drive." Damian placed it on the seat between them. "I picked it up before we left." She grabbed it immediately. "You went through it?" "No." "You expect me to believe that?" "I already know what's inside." That answer chilled her more than any lie could have. An hour later, the SUV passed through towering iron gates. Stone walls rose from the mountainside like an ancient fortress. Floodlights illuminated a sprawling estate overlooking dark pine forests. Elegant, silent, almost impossibly isolated. "This is your house?" "My home. It looks like a castle." It was meant to. The gates closed behind them with a heavy metallic groan. For the first time that night, Elena realized escape wouldn't be easy. Inside, the mansion was warm despite the storm outside. Dark wood, marble floors, towering bookshelves, and soft amber lights gave the vast entrance hall an unexpected sense of calm. Waiting near the grand staircase stood a woman in a charcoal suit. Her silver blonde hair was tied neatly back, and her sharp gaze settled on Elena before shifting to Damian. "You're injured." "It's superficial." Her eyes narrowed. "And our guest?" "Unharmed." The woman offered Elena a polite nod. "My name is Sophia. Welcome to Blackthorn Estate." Elena folded her arms. "I'm not staying." Sophia glanced at Damian with the faintest hint of amusement. They all say that. Later that night, after Elena had been shown to a spacious bedroom overlooking the forest, she stood alone on the balcony. The rain had finally eased. Far below, security lights swept across the grounds. The estate was beautiful. It was also surrounded by walls, cameras, and guards. A gilded cage. The bedroom door opened quietly behind her. Damian stepped onto the balcony. He kept several feet between them. "I thought you'd be asleep." "I don't sleep in places I don't trust." "I wouldn't expect you to." Silence settled between them. Finally, Elena asked the question that had haunted her since the apartment. "If you didn't kill my father, who did?" Damian's jaw tightened. "The man who ordered his death believes you're already dead." She frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means the attack tonight wasn't random." He looked directly into her eyes. "It means someone has finally realized you're getting close to the truth." A distant flash of lightning illuminated the mountains. For a heartbeat, Damian's usually composed expression revealed something she hadn't expected. Concern. Not for himself. For her. And that frightened Elena almost as much as the men with the rifles. The mountains greeted the dawn in silence. A blanket of mist drifted through the towering pine trees surrounding Blackthorn Estate, softening the sharp outlines of the stone walls and iron gates. From the outside, the manor looked like an abandoned fortress forgotten by time. Inside, it was anything but abandoned. Elena hadn't slept. Every hour, she had heard footsteps in the corridor. Guards, changing shifts with military precision, no raised voices, no careless laughter. Everything about the estate operated with quiet discipline. She crossed the bedroom and tried the door. Unlocked. She frowned. She had expected it to be locked from the outside. Instead, Damian had left it open. Was it trust or confidence that she couldn't escape? She dressed quickly in a simple outfit Sophia had left for her and stepped into the hallway. The mansion was enormous. Sunlight poured through towering stained glass windows, painting the marble floors with streaks of crimson, gold, and sapphire. Every wall held paintings centuries old. Every corner was watched by discreet security cameras, luxury wrapped around control. As Elena wandered deeper into the estate, she noticed something else. There were no servants chatting, no televisions, no music, only silence, a deliberate silence. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee eventually led her into an elegant dining room. Damian sat alone at the far end of a long oak table. A newspaper rested beside his untouched breakfast. He looked up as she entered. "I was beginning to think you'd stay in your room all day. I was considering climbing out the window." "You looked." She hesitated. He noticed. "There are motion sensors beneath every balcony." She narrowed her eyes. "You really have thought of everything." "I've had to." He gestured toward the chair opposite him. "Eat." "I'm not hungry." "You've had nothing since yesterday afternoon." "How do you know that?" "I know a great deal about you." Her stomach tightened. "That's disturbing. It kept you alive." She reluctantly sat down, though every instinct told her not to let her guard down. A housekeeper quietly served breakfast before disappearing without saying a word. Damian finally spoke. "Your father wasn't investigating ordinary corruption." "I know. He uncovered something that could have started a war." She studied him carefully. "Then why didn't he expose it?" "He tried." Damian's gaze drifted toward the window. "They killed him first." The certainty in his voice made Elena's chest ache. For years, she'd imagined this conversation, but not like this. Not across a breakfast table with the man she'd spent years believing was responsible. "Why help me?" she asked. "You owe me nothing." He looked at her for a long moment. "I owe your father." Before she could ask what he meant, Marcus entered the dining room. "The perimeter's clear." Damian nodded. "And the surveillance?" "We lost one drone over the northern ridge." "Replace it." Marcus noticed Elena watching him and offered a respectful nod. "Morning." She didn't return the greeting. Marcus smiled slightly. "Still deciding whether to stab the boss with a butter knife? I haven't ruled it out." "Fair." Even Damian's expression softened for a fraction of a second. The tiny reaction surprised Elena. It was the closest she'd seen him come to smiling. Later that morning, Sophia guided Elena through part of the estate. The mansion held a private library with thousands of books, an indoor conservatory filled with rare plants, and hallways lined with historical artifacts. It felt less like a criminal's hideout and more like a museum. "This place doesn't match your reputation," Elena admitted. Sophia glanced toward a portrait hanging above the fireplace. "People usually fear what they don't understand." "I'm beginning to think no one understands Damian. Not even Damian." By afternoon, curiosity overcame caution. Elena slipped away while Sophia answered a phone call. She wandered through a quieter wing of the mansion until she found a heavy black door slightly ajar. Inside, a study. Maps covered one wall. Computer monitors displayed security feeds from across the estate. Several locked filing cabinets stood against the far wall. On the desk rested a leather-bound notebook. She hesitated, then opened it. The first page contained a photograph. Her father, younger, smiling, standing beside Damian. She froze. The picture looked at least 15 years old. The two of them stood shoulder to shoulder in front of an old stone building, both covered in dirt as if they'd just survived something dangerous. Her fingers trembled. Why would Damian have a photograph like this? What had her father never told her? She quickly turned another page. Notes, names, dates, transactions. Then she saw her own name. Elara Hart. Beneath it, one handwritten sentence. Protect her, no matter the cost. Her breath caught. The study door closed behind her with a quiet click. She spun around. Damian stood there. His expression wasn't angry, only disappointed. I asked everyone to leave that room locked. I had questions, and instead of asking, "You've been lying to me," he walked toward the desk, stopping a respectful distance away. "I've been waiting for the right time." The right time? Her voice shook with emotion. "You have photographs with my father, files about me. You know who murdered him, yet you keep telling me to trust you. I've never asked you to trust me. Then what do you want?" His gray eyes held hers. "For you to stay alive long enough to learn the truth." A tense silence settled between them. Neither noticed the small red light blinking on one of the security monitors. Outside the estate, hidden among the trees, someone was watching. And they had just confirmed Elara Hart was inside Blackthorn Manor. The red light blinked once. Then it disappeared into the forest. Miles away from the estate, a masked figure lowered a pair of military-grade binoculars. "Target confirmed," he spoke quietly into a secure radio. A distorted voice answered. "Alive?" "Yes." A brief pause followed. "Do not engage." "What are your orders?" The voice became colder. "Watch. Wait. And if Blackthorn moves her, we'll know." The transmission ended. The figure vanished into the trees without leaving a trace. Inside Blackthorn Estate, Elara remained frozen in Damian's study. "So," she said softly, "what happens now?" Damian closed the notebook and locked it inside a drawer. "Now you stop wandering into rooms that could get you killed." She folded her arms. "Is that a threat?" "No." He looked directly at her. "It's a warning." His voice remained calm, but something about it made her believe every word. There were secrets in this house that were dangerous enough to kill for. Damian walked toward the door. "Come with me." "I'm done following your orders." "I wasn't giving one." He paused. "I was inviting you." She hesitated before following. Not because she trusted him, because she needed answers. They walked through a long corridor lined with portraits of the Blackthorn family. Men and women dressed in dark, formal clothing stared back from ornate gold frames. Some looked stern, others looked haunted. Elara stopped before one painting. A young boy stood beside an older man. The boy couldn't have been more than 12. Even then, his gray eyes were unmistakable. "That's you?" Damian nodded. "And your father?" "My father. He doesn't look very friendly." He wasn't. There was no emotion in Damian's voice. Only fact. They reached a pair of tall oak doors that opened onto a wide stone terrace overlooking the mountains. The morning fog had lifted, revealing endless forests stretching toward distant peaks. For the first time since arriving, Elara forgot she was trapped. The view was breathtaking. "You built this?" "My grandfather did. It's beautiful. It was meant to be impossible to attack." That answer reminded her exactly where she was. Damian leaned lightly against the stone railing. "There are rules while you're here." "I'm listening." "Rule 1. He met her eyes. "You tell someone before leaving the house." "I'm a guest, not a child." "You're a target." She looked away. He continued. "Rule 2. No wandering into restricted areas." "I've already broken that one." I noticed. A faint hint of amusement touched the corner of his mouth before disappearing. "Rule 3. If I tell you to run, his expression hardened. You run. No questions. No arguments. She studied him. You really think someone is coming? I know they are. Silence settled between them. Finally, Elena asked the question she had been carrying since the apartment. What exactly are you? He looked toward the mountains. The newspapers call you a billionaire. Correct. The police call you a suspect. They often do. People online call you a criminal. They're not entirely wrong. She frowned. So, which is it? Damian took several seconds before answering. I've done terrible things. His honesty surprised her. I've broken laws. I've made enemies. I've made decisions that still keep me awake at night. He turned back toward her. But I have never harmed innocent people. And I never will. There was something unsettling about the conviction in his voice. Not because it sounded rehearsed, because it sounded true. That afternoon, Sophia found Elena in the library. She handed her a small velvet box. What's this? From Damian. Elena opened it carefully. Inside rested a delicate silver necklace. Attached to the pendant was an almost invisible black gemstone. I'm not accepting jewelry from him. It's not jewelry. Sophia smiled faintly. It's a GPS tracker. Elena looked up sharply. I knew it. Before you get angry. Sophia continued calmly. It also has a panic button. She demonstrated. If you're ever separated from us, press the center stone. It alerts every security team on the estate. Elena stared at the necklace. She hated the idea of being tracked, but after the attack, she also understood why. I still don't trust him. You don't have to. Sophia closed the box gently. Just stay alive. That evening, rain returned to the mountains. Thunder rolled across the valley. Unable to sleep again, Elena stepped onto the balcony outside her room. The cool air calmed her racing thoughts. She noticed a solitary figure standing in the estate gardens below. Damian, hands in his coat pockets, motionless beneath the rain, looking toward the forest, as though waiting for something. Without thinking, she made her way downstairs. When she reached him, he didn't turn around. I thought you'd be asleep, he said. I could say the same. I don't sleep much. You should. He gave a quiet, humorless laugh. I've tried. For a while, they simply stood there as rain soaked the gardens. No arguments, no accusations, only silence. Finally, Elena spoke. You carry the weight of this place alone, don't you? Damian's jaw tightened. Someone has to. She looked at him more carefully than ever before. The cold, untouchable man the world feared looked exhausted, not physically, emotionally. For a fleeting moment, she wondered what kind of life could turn someone into this. Then, a loud alarm shattered the silence. Red emergency lights flashed across the estate. Marcus's voice echoed through hidden speakers. Security breach. North perimeter. Multiple hostiles approaching. Damian's eyes hardened in an instant. The quiet man vanished. The commander returned. He looked at Elena. Go inside. She didn't move. Elena. His voice was sharper now. Run. From beyond the trees, the first explosion lit up the night sky. The explosion shook the estate. Windows rattled. Birds burst from the trees in a frantic cloud of black wings. For one suspended heartbeat, everything was still. Then chaos erupted. Security lights flooded the grounds. Guards emerged from hidden positions with disciplined precision, moving to defensive positions as alarms echoed across the mountains. Damian's attention snapped toward the northern wall. "Marcus?" His voice was low, but the earpiece responded instantly. "4 vehicles at the north gate. 2 more approaching from the east. They've disabled one of our cameras. Casualties? None. Keep it that way." Damian removed his earpiece and looked at Elara. "Inside. I'm not leaving you." "That wasn't a request." She stood her ground. "You keep telling me I'm in danger, but you refuse to explain anything. Because there isn't time." Gunfire crackled in the distance. The attackers were testing the estate's defenses. Damian stepped closer, lowering his voice. "If they reach this courtyard," he paused, "they won't take you alive." The certainty in his tone sent a chill down her spine. Marcus sprinted across the garden, rain streaming down his face. "They've breached the outer fence." Damian nodded once. "Initiate lockdown 3. Marcus hesitated. "With her inside?" "Yes." He glanced briefly at Elara. "Especially with her inside." Marcus disappeared without another word. Heavy steel barriers began sliding into place over the estate's lower entrances. Floodlights swept the surrounding forest. Somewhere in the darkness, an engine roared, then another. Damian drew his pistol. The movement was calm, practiced, not dramatic. The weapon looked like another tool in his hand. "You know how to use that?" Elara asked. "I hope I don't have to." Another explosion answered for him. Sophia appeared at the mansion doors. "Elara." When Elara didn't move, Sophia crossed the courtyard herself. "You need to come inside." "I can't just hide while he's out here." Sophia's expression softened. "You think that's helping him?" Elara looked at Damian. He had already turned away, issuing silent hand signals to the guards spread across the walls. He wasn't watching her anymore. He was protecting everyone. Reluctantly, she followed Sophia back into the house. The estate transformed before her eyes. Elegant hallways became fortified corridors. Hidden steel doors sealed off entire wings. Security monitors illuminated every wall in the command room. Marcus stood over a digital map of the property. Red markers blinked around the perimeter. "They're probing for weak points," he muttered. "They're organized." Elara stared at the screens. "This is more than a mansion." Marcus didn't look up. "It has to be." Minutes passed. The sounds of distant gunfire slowly faded. One by one, the red markers disappeared from the map. Marcus finally exhaled. "They're retreating." Sophia frowned. "Too easy." "I know." An hour later, the lockdown ended. The mansion slowly returned to its eerie calm. Elara slipped away while everyone remained occupied with damage reports. She couldn't stand feeling trapped any longer. She found a side entrance near the conservatory. Unlocked. Outside, the night air smelled of wet earth and pine. For the first time since arriving, no guards were nearby. She glanced toward the forest. If she could reach the road, maybe she could find help. Maybe she could finally escape Damian Blackthorn. Her heart pounded. She stepped beyond the garden. Then another step. The estate disappeared behind her as the trees swallowed the path. Freedom. She almost smiled, until she noticed how quiet the forest had become. No insects, no birds, nothing. A branch snapped behind her. She turned sharply. Nothing. Another sound, closer. Her breathing quickened. Someone was out there, watching. She hurried deeper into the trees. The moon disappeared behind heavy clouds. Darkness closed around her. Then, a gloved hand clamped over her mouth. She screamed, but the sound was swallowed. A rough voice whispered into her ear. "We found you." Terror surged through her before she could struggle free. A single gunshot echoed through the forest. The hand vanished. The man beside her collapsed into the leaves. Elena stumbled backward. A dark figure emerged from the shadows. Damian. Rain dripped from his black coat as he lowered his pistol. His gray eyes never left the surrounding trees. "There are more," he said quietly. Another masked attacker appeared between the pines, then another and another. They weren't trying to storm the estate anymore. They had waited for her. Damian reached for Elena without taking his eyes off the advancing figures. His hand closed firmly around hers. "Stay behind me." For the first time since meeting him, she didn't pull away. Damian tightened his grip on Elena's hand. "Run." This time, she obeyed. They raced through the rain-soaked forest as branches whipped across their faces. Behind them, the masked men gave chase, their boots pounding against the wet ground. "Left," Damian ordered. Elena turned sharply, nearly slipping on the muddy slope. A bullet struck the trunk of a tree beside her, splintering bark. She gasped. Damian immediately pulled her behind a massive oak. "Stay here." "What about you?" "I'm ending this." Before she could stop him, he disappeared into the darkness. The forest erupted with movement. Voices shouted. Gunfire echoed between the trees. Then silence, a terrifying silence. Elena's breathing became the only sound she could hear. "Damian," she whispered. No answer. Seconds felt like hours. A twig snapped behind her. She spun around. Marcus emerged from the shadows with two members of the estate's security team. "Where is he?" Elena asked. Marcus looked toward the forest. "He told us to get you back. I'm not leaving him. That isn't your choice." Before either of them could argue further, Damian stepped from the darkness. His black coat was torn across one shoulder. Blood stained the sleeve beneath it. Elena's eyes widened. "You're hurt." "It's nothing. It doesn't look like nothing." He ignored the comment. "They're gone." Marcus frowned. "They withdrew again." Damian nodded once. "They got what they wanted." "What was that?" "They confirmed she isn't dead." Back at the estate, Sophia insisted Damian sit while she cleaned the wound. "It needs stitches." "It can wait." "No." Her tone carried enough authority that even Damian didn't argue. Elena stood quietly near the fireplace. She watched as Sophia carefully stitched the shallow wound across Damian's shoulder. He never flinched, never complained. "You've done this before," Elena said. Sophia smiled faintly. "More times than I'd like." Damian finally looked at Elena. "You shouldn't have left the estate." "I know." The admission surprised both of them. "I thought you were keeping me prisoner." "I was keeping you alive." She lowered her eyes. "I almost got myself killed." "You almost got both of us killed." His words weren't cruel, just honest. For some reason, that stung more. Later that night, the storm finally passed. Most of the estate had gone quiet. Elena couldn't sleep. Again. She wandered into the mansion's enormous library. Moonlight streamed through the tall windows. Thousands of books surrounded her. She reached for one, absent-mindedly. "A good choice." She turned. Damian stood near the fireplace, now wearing a simple black sweater instead of his usual suit jacket. Without the jacket. He looked different, less like the feared head of an empire, more like an ordinary man carrying extraordinary burdens. "I didn't hear you. You were distracted." She held up the book. "You read poetry?" "Sometimes. I wouldn't have guessed." "There are many things you wouldn't guess." She sat in one of the leather chairs. After a moment, He sat across from her. The silence between them felt different tonight, less hostile, still cautious, but softer. "You saved my life." He shrugged lightly. "I said I would." "Why?" He studied the fire instead of answering. "Finally, because I promised someone." "My father?" A small nod. "What kind of promise?" Damian's expression became distant. "The kind a man keeps." Elara leaned forward. "Tell me about him." For the first time, Damian hesitated. He was brave. "I know. He was stubborn." She smiled faintly. "I definitely know." A ghost of a smile touched Damian's lips. He believed the truth was worth dying for. The smile disappeared. And he was wrong. Elara looked at him carefully. No, he was right. If no one fights for the truth, she paused, the lies win. Their eyes met across the room. Neither looked away. Finally, Damian stood. "It's late." As he reached the library door, Elara quietly asked, "Did you love my father?" He stopped walking. Without turning around, he answered, "He was my closest friend." Then he left. Alone again. Elara stared into the dying fire. Something didn't make sense. Damian had said her father was his closest friend. Yet in every interview, every article, every police report, their names had never appeared together. Someone had erased that connection completely. She whispered to herself, "What else are you hiding?" Upstairs, standing alone in his study, Damian opened a locked drawer. Inside rested an old photograph. He and Elena's father, smiling, alive. On the back, written in fading ink, were 6 words. "Protect my daughter. Never tell her." Damian closed his eyes, then quietly whispered, "I'm sorry, Michael. It was the only promise I couldn't fully keep." The estate slept beneath a sky scattered with stars. The storm had passed. Only the whisper of wind through the pine trees disturbed the silence. From her bedroom balcony, Elara wrapped a blanket around her shoulders and looked toward the mountains. Everything seemed peaceful. Too peaceful. After everything that had happened, she no longer trusted silence. It often came just before violence. Across the estate, Damian stood in his private office. A wall-sized screen displayed satellite images, security feeds, and encrypted reports. Marcus entered without knocking. "The men we captured won't talk. They're professionals. They bit down on cyanide capsules before interrogation." Damian's jaw tightened. "So Victor is cleaning his own house?" Marcus nodded. "We also recovered this." He placed a silver coin on the desk. A black wolf had been engraved into one side. Damian's expression darkened immediately. "I haven't seen that symbol in 15 years. You know who sent them?" "I know exactly who." Marcus remained silent. He had seen that look only a handful of times. It usually meant someone wasn't going to survive the week. Elara wandered downstairs in search of tea. Instead, she found Sophia organizing medical supplies. "You don't sleep much either?" Elara asked. Sophia smiled tiredly. "Occupational hazard?" She noticed Elara watching the bandages. "He's been injured more times than he'll ever admit. He acts like pain doesn't exist. He feels it." Sophia carefully closed the medical kit. "He simply refuses to let anyone see it." An hour later. Unable to settle her thoughts, Elara returned to the balcony outside her room. The night air was cool. Somewhere below, Guards quietly changed position. She leaned against the stone railing. Then, movement. A tiny flicker in the darkness beyond the trees. At first, she thought it was an animal. Then another light appeared. Then another. Tiny red dots, not lights. Laser sights. Her eyes widened. Oh my God! A sharp crack split the night. The stone railing exploded beside her. Fragments of marble cut across her cheek before she could react. Strong arms wrapped around her waist. Damian. He pulled her backward just as another bullet struck the balcony. Glass shattered. Wood splintered. The sniper's shots came one after another. Damian shielded Elara with his own body as they stumbled into the bedroom. The heavy balcony doors slammed shut. Another bullet pierced the glass, embedding itself in the opposite wall. "Stay down," Damian ordered. She hit the floor beside the bed, breathing hard. "What is happening?" "They've changed tactics." He drew his pistol while speaking into his earpiece. "Marcus, already tracking the shooter. Roof teams, in position. Take them alive if possible." A brief pause. Marcus sighed. "You know they won't surrender." "I know." Outside, the peaceful estate became a battlefield once again. Searchlights swept across the surrounding forest. Guards spread through the trees with disciplined precision. A sniper fired twice more before disappearing into the darkness. Another team attempted to breach the eastern wall. They were intercepted within seconds. Whoever was commanding the attack wasn't trying to win. They were testing, learning, waiting. Inside Elena's room. Silence slowly returned. Damian lowered his weapon. Only then did he notice the thin line of blood running down Elena's cheek. She reached up instinctively. Her fingertips came away red. "I'm okay." He stepped closer. "Sit. It's only a scratch." "Sit." His voice remained calm. She obeyed. From a nearby cabinet, he retrieved a small first aid kit. "You know how to do this?" she asked. "I've had practice." He dampened a clean cloth and gently brushed away the blood. His movements were careful, steady. His fingers barely touched her skin. "You don't have to. Be still." For once, she didn't argue. Their eyes met briefly. Close enough now, she noticed faint scars along his hands. Old, pale lines crossing his knuckles and wrists. Evidence of a life he never spoke about. "Does it hurt?" he asked. "The cut?" She nodded. "Not much." "Good." He placed a small bandage over the wound. "There." She smiled, despite herself. "I didn't picture the infamous Damian Blackthorn carrying bandages." A faint, almost invisible smile crossed his face. "I carry many things people don't expect." The moment lingered. Neither moved away. The room seemed unusually. Outside, the searchlights continued sweeping across the grounds. Inside, only the sound of their breathing remained. Then Marcus's voice broke through Damian's earpiece. "We lost the sniper." Damian closed his eyes for a brief second. "Any casualties?" "2 guards wounded. No fatalities." "Good." He looked back at Elara. "They're getting closer." She swallowed. "Because of me?" "No." His answer came immediately. "They were coming whether you were here or not." "Then why now?" He hesitated. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncertain. "Because someone believes you remember something." "I don't." "You might." Before Elara could ask what he meant, the lights in the mansion flickered. Once, twice. Then the entire estate went dark. Every security monitor, every hallway light, every alarm, silence. Complete darkness. Marcus's voice burst through the radio. "Power failure!" Another voice shouted in the background. "They're inside the house." Damian's expression turned to stone. He drew Elara behind him. Without taking his eyes off the bedroom door, he said quietly, "Whatever happens next, don't let go of my hand." The doorknob began to turn. The doorknob turned slowly. In the darkness, every sound felt amplified. Elara instinctively reached for Damian's hand. He squeezed hers once, steady, reassuring. The bedroom door creaked open. A flashlight beam swept across the room. Damian raised his pistol. "Don't shoot," a familiar voice whispered. Marcus stepped inside, lowering his own weapon. "The backup generators are offline. Someone sabotaged them." "Inside job?" Damian asked. Marcus nodded grimly. They knew exactly where to strike. For the first time that night, Damian's composure cracked. "Seal every exit. They already are. No one leaves, no one enters." Marcus disappeared into the hallway. The emergency lights flickered to life, casting the mansion in a dim crimson glow. Long shadows stretched across the marble floors. The elegant estate suddenly felt like a labyrinth. Damian looked at Elara. "You stay beside me. I wasn't planning to wander off again." He gave a small nod. "I'm glad." Together they moved through the corridors. Every few meters, armed guards stood watch. No one spoke above a whisper. The tension was suffocating. They reached the command center. Half the monitors remained black. The others displayed frozen camera feeds. Sophia was already there, studying a blueprint of the estate. "The power room wasn't the only target," she said. "They also disabled sections of the surveillance network." Damian's eyes narrowed. "Which sections?" She pointed to a corridor beneath the west wing. "These." He stared at the map for several seconds. "No." Marcus looked at him. "What?" Damian's voice dropped. "They're heading for the archives." Before anyone could react, a distant metallic clang echoed beneath the mansion. Someone had forced open a heavy security door. Marcus immediately gathered a response team. "I'm going." Damian nodded. "I'm coming with you." Elara stepped forward. "So am I." "No, I'm done waiting in another room." "It's dangerous." "So is staying here." Their eyes locked. Finally, Damian exhaled. "You stay between Marcus and me." She gave a quick nod. The hidden staircase descended deep beneath the estate. The air grew colder with every step. Stone walls replaced polished wood. Old iron lamps lined the passage. "This place is older than the mansion," Elara whispered. "My family built over it," Damian replied. "What is it?" "A vault." "What does it protect?" He didn't answer. At the bottom of the stairs stood an enormous steel door. It hung partially open. Someone had already broken the lock. Marcus raised his hand. The team stopped. "Clear left, clear right." They entered cautiously. Rows of shelves stretched into the darkness. Leather-bound ledgers, old photographs, boxes sealed with wax, historical records dating back generations. Elara looked around in amazement. "This isn't just a family archive." "No," Damian said quietly. "It's a record of every alliance, every betrayal, every war my family ever fought." Marcus suddenly knelt beside the floor. "Boss." Damian joined him. "What is it?" "A blood trail. Fresh. Leading deeper into the archive. They followed it to a smaller chamber. The heavy wooden door had been forced open. Inside, a single display case stood shattered. Its contents were gone. Damian stared at the empty stand. His face became unreadable. "What was here?" Elara asked. He remained silent. Marcus answered instead. "A journal." "Whose journal?" Marcus looked toward Damian before speaking. "Your father's." Elena's heart skipped. My father's diary. Damian nodded once. It contained everything he discovered. And now it's gone. Elena's emotions surged. They stole the truth. They stole part of it, Damian corrected. She looked at him. You've read it, haven't you? A long silence followed. Finally, he answered. Yes. And you never told me? I couldn't. You wouldn't. Her voice echoed through the chamber. You keep deciding what I deserve to know. Damian's expression remained calm, but there was regret in his eyes. If I had shown you that journal 3 years ago, he paused, you would have gone after Victor Kane alone. I might have. You would have died. She wanted to argue. Instead, she looked away, because deep down, she wasn't sure he was wrong. A guard hurried into the room. Sir, what is it? We found this near the broken entrance. He handed Damian a folded piece of black paper. Damian opened it, his eyes hardened. What does it say? Elena asked. Without a word, he handed her the note. Only 6 words were written in silver ink. Next time, we'd take the girl. A chill ran through the underground chamber. Whoever their enemy was, they had stopped searching for secrets. Now, they were hunting Elena herself. The black note remained in Elena's trembling hands. Next time, we take the girl. The silver ink caught the dim emergency lights, making the words appear almost alive. She looked up at Damian. They're not hiding anymore. No. His voice was quiet. They're sending a message. Marcus folded his arms. They're becoming impatient. They're becoming desperate, Damian corrected. There's a difference. The archive was sealed while Damian's security team searched every shelf and corridor. Nothing else had been taken, only Michael Hart's journal, only the one thing that connected the past to the present that couldn't be a coincidence. Back upstairs, dawn was beginning to color the mountains. No one had slept. The mansion felt heavy with exhaustion. Elena stood by one of the tall windows, watching the first rays of sunlight spread across the valley. It never ends, does it? She murmured. Behind her, Damian set 2 mugs of coffee on a small table. No. She accepted one. Thank you. He nodded. For a few moments, neither spoke. The quiet between them no longer felt hostile. It felt thoughtful. Finally, Elena broke the silence. When you knew my father, Damian looked at her. And were you already who you are now? A faint shadow crossed his face. No. What were you? A soldier. She blinked. A soldier? For a government unit that officially never existed? You expect me to believe that? I don't expect anything. He took a slow sip of coffee. Your father was assigned to the same operation. Eleanor stared at him. You served together? Yes. You trusted each other? With our lives? Her world tilted. Everything she'd believed about Damian Blackthorn was unraveling piece by piece. Later that morning, Elena returned to the library. She needed to think. Instead, she found an old woman carefully dusting the shelves. Unlike the other staff, she smiled warmly. You must be Miss Hart. I am. I'm Evelyn. I've worked here since Damian was a boy. Elena hesitated. Can I ask you something? If I know the answer, what was he like? Evelyn chuckled softly. Very different. How? He laughed. The answer caught Elena off guard. He laughed often. She looked toward the window. Then one day, the laughter stopped. What happened? The old woman's smile faded. He buried too many people. Before Elena could ask another question, Evelyn excused herself and quietly left. That afternoon, Damian disappeared into his office. He unlocked a hidden compartment beneath his desk. Inside was a slim black folder stamped with a faded government seal. He hesitated, then opened it. Photographs, mission reports, classified correspondence. At the very bottom lay a single file. Its cover read, Project Ashfall. Across the front, someone had written in red ink, Destroy after reading. Damian opened the file slowly. Most of the pages were already familiar. But one photograph stopped him cold. A young Elara, perhaps 6 years old, standing beside her father at a lakeside cabin. Someone had circled the child in red. Beneath the image were handwritten words. Secondary target if Michael Hart refuses cooperation. Damian's grip tightened. His knuckles turned white. So it started even earlier, he whispered. They planned this for years. A sharp knock interrupted him. Marcus entered. You should see this. What happened? Marcus handed him a tablet. A security camera from a nearby village had captured grainy footage just before dawn. A black SUV, 2 motorcycles, and one familiar face. Victor Kane. Though older now, there was no mistaking him. Marcus looked at Damian. He knows where we are. Damian's expression hardened. No. He wants me to know he knows. That evening, Elara wandered into the music room. An old grand piano stood near the fireplace, dustless, frequently used. She gently pressed a key. A soft note echoed through the room. I didn't know you played. She turned. Damian stood in the doorway. I haven't in a long time. Why stop? He walked to the piano and rested his fingers lightly on the polished wood. Because some memories are louder than music. He pressed a few quiet notes. A slow, melancholic melody filled the room. It wasn't perfect, but it was beautiful. Elara watched him. This wasn't the ruthless man the newspapers described. This was someone carrying ghosts. When the final note faded, neither spoke. Their eyes met across the piano. For the first time, Elara didn't see a monster. She saw a man who had survived things she couldn't yet imagine. And for the first time, Damian allowed himself to wonder if letting her get close was the one mistake he could never afford to make. Morning settled over Blackthorn Estate with deceptive calm. From the outside, the manor looked untouched by the attacks of the past few nights. Inside, no one believed the peace would last. Damian stood in the strategy room with Marcus and Sophia. A digital map covered one wall. Red markers flashed across neighboring towns. Marcus crossed his arms. We've intercepted encrypted communications. From Victor? Damian asked. Marcus nodded. He's moving people toward the mountains. How many? Enough to start a war. The room fell silent. Sophia finally spoke. We can't keep Elara here forever. I know. Then what's your plan? Damian looked toward the window. My plan is to end this before he reaches her. Marcus frowned. That's no longer possible. Damian turned. What do you mean? Marcus slid a folder across the table. Our sources confirm Victor isn't interested in killing Elara. He wants her alive. Damian's expression darkened. Why? We don't know. Meanwhile, Elara wandered through the estate gardens. The roses had survived the recent storms, blooming in deep shades of crimson and white. She knelt beside one flower, gently brushing a fingertip across its petals. You always stop for the roses. She looked up. Damian stood a few feet away. She smiled faintly. How do you know that? Your father planted them. She frowned. Here? Years ago. He pointed toward the oldest section of the garden. He said roses reminded him that beautiful things survive even after harsh winters. Elara felt her throat tighten. He never told me. There are many things he never told you. They walked slowly through the garden paths. For once, there were no arguments, no accusations, only questions. "My father trusted you," Elena said quietly. "He did. Did you ever betray him?" Damian stopped walking. "No." She studied his face. "You answered that quickly." "Because I never had to think about it." His certainty made her chest ache. As they reached a quiet stone fountain, Elena turned toward him. "I've spent 3 years hating you." "I know. I built my entire life around exposing you." "I know. And now," she laughed softly, though there was little humor in it, "I don't know what to believe." Damian looked at the water cascading into the fountain. "Believe actions, not words." She considered that. His actions had saved her life. Twice, maybe 3 times. Suddenly, Marcus appeared, walking briskly toward them. "Boss." Damian immediately recognized the urgency. "What happened?" "We've received a transmission. From Victor." Marcus handed over a secure satellite phone. "It came directly to your private frequency." Damian answered without hesitation. "This is Blackthorn." A smooth voice responded. "Hello, old friend." Elena couldn't hear every word, but she saw Damian's entire body become rigid. Victor chuckled. "It's been a long time. What do you want?" "You already know." A pause. "The girl." Damian's eyes turned cold. "No." Victor sighed dramatically. "I thought you'd say that." "Then this conversation is over." "Wait." Victor's tone sharpened. "I have something you want." Damian remained silent. "The journal wasn't the only thing we took." A folder slid into view on the screen of the satellite phone. Old photographs, government documents, and one image that made Damian's blood run cold. Michael Hart, alive, bound to a chair. The date stamp read 1 day before his death. Victor spoke again. "I'll make you a bargain." Damian's jaw clenched. "I'm listening. You bring Elena to St. Gabriel Monastery. Alone. In 48 hours. And I'll give you the complete truth about her father." Damian's voice was ice. "You expect me to trust you?" Victor laughed. "No. I expect you to love her enough to come anyway." The line went dead. Elena stepped closer. "What did he say?" Damian looked at the dark phone screen for several seconds before answering. "He wants to trade." "For what?" His gray eyes met hers. "For you." The wind swept through the garden, carrying the scent of roses across the estate. Neither of them noticed the tiny camera hidden among the stone carvings of the fountain. Miles away. Victor Kane watched the live feed. He smiled. "They're already falling for each other." He leaned back in his chair. "Perfect. Now they'll make mistakes." The silence after the phone call lingered like a storm cloud. Elena searched Damian's face for answers. "You don't have to tell me everything," she said quietly, "but don't lie to me." He held her gaze. "I won't." It wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was enough for the moment. By evening, Blackthorn Estate had become a fortress. Additional security teams patrolled the grounds. Drones circled the forest. Every entrance was reinforced. Marcus studied a digital map in the command room. "If Victor wants a meeting in 48 hours, he'll expect us to panic." Damian folded his arms. "We're not going." Marcus looked up. "You've already decided?" "Yes." "Even if he destroys the evidence?" Damian's expression remained calm. "I won't trade Elena's life for a file." Neither Marcus nor Sophia argued. They knew that tone. His decision was final. Across the hall, Elena wandered into the conservatory. The glass ceiling reflected the fading orange sky, while rare orchids and climbing vines filled the room with the scent of fresh earth. For the first time in days, she felt almost peaceful. She knelt beside a small fountain. My mother loved those flowers. Eleanor turned. An elderly gardener smiled warmly. I've taken care of this room for many years. You knew my parents? He nodded. Your father visited often. She frowned. He brought me here once. I don't remember. You were very little. The gardener chuckled softly. You kept trying to chase the butterflies. A strange warmth spread through her chest. Another memory she'd never known she had. That night, Damian stood alone on the western balcony, overlooking the forest. He sensed someone before he heard them. You should sleep. Elena stepped beside him. I could say the same. The moonlight illuminated the mountains below. Neither spoke for several moments. Finally, she asked, Are you afraid? He answered honestly. Every day. She looked at him in surprise. I thought nothing frightened you. He gave a quiet, tired smile. I've never been afraid for myself. His eyes drifted toward her. But fear changes when someone else's life depends on you. The words settled heavily between them. Elena looked away, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. The cool mountain breeze carried a strand of her hair across her face. Without thinking, Damian reached up and gently brushed it aside. His fingertips lingered for only a moment. A simple gesture, careful, respectful. Neither moved, neither spoke. Their eyes met. The distance between them felt impossibly small. Elena's heartbeat quickened. She could have stepped back. She didn't. Instead, she whispered, You're not the man I thought you were. His expression softened. And you're stronger than you believe. A faint blush warmed her cheeks. She smiled almost shyly. I've never heard anyone describe me that way. It's true. For the first time since arriving at Blackthorn Estate, she smiled without forcing it. The quiet moment ended with the sound of hurried footsteps. Marcus emerged onto the balcony. His face was grim. We have a problem. Damian immediately straightened. What happened? Marcus handed him a tablet. It's one of our internal security recordings. The video showed a guard entering the archive corridor. He unlocked a secured door. Then, he met with a masked stranger inside the estate. Marcus paused the footage. The guard disappeared immediately afterward. Sophia joined them, studying the screen. That wasn't an intruder. No, Marcus agreed. It was someone we trusted. Damian watched the frozen image for a long moment. There has been a traitor inside Blackthorn Estate. He looked toward the darkened halls of the mansion. And if they have been feeding Victor information, his voice became dangerously quiet, then the enemy has been living under our roof. Far below, hidden beyond the estate walls, a lone figure watched the illuminated windows through binoculars. A faint smile crossed the observer's face. The first crack had appeared. And from cracks, empires fall. A cold rain returned before dawn. The steady rhythm against the windows masked the tension inside Blackthorn Estate. No one trusted anyone anymore. The discovery of a traitor had changed everything. Damian gathered his inner circle in the command room. Marcus, Sophia, 3 senior security officers, and Elena. A digital blueprint of the estate glowed on the screen. Damian stood at the head of the table. Until we identify the traitor. He looked around the room. No one moves through this house alone. One of the officers frowned. Even the staff? Especially the staff. Marcus nodded. I've already suspended outside deliveries. Every employee will be interviewed. Hours later, the questioning began. One by one, members of the household entered Damian's study. Some looked nervous, some offended, most cooperative. Nothing, no obvious suspect, no useful leads. The traitor remained invisible. Elara wandered into the library, unable to concentrate. She pulled a book from the shelf. As she opened it, a folded piece of paper slipped onto the floor. She frowned. It hadn't been there before. She unfolded it. Only one sentence was written. "You should have run when you had the chance." Her pulse quickened. Someone inside the house had left it. Someone close enough to enter the library unnoticed. She looked around. The room was empty, or so it seemed. A faint creak echoed from the upper gallery. She looked up. Nothing. Then another sound. Footsteps. Slow, measured, watching. "Who's there?" No answer. She moved toward the staircase. The second floor was deserted. Every corridor silent. She almost convinced herself she'd imagined it. Then, a vase crashed behind her. She spun around. A dark figure sprinted across the hallway. "Stop!" The figure disappeared around the corner. Elara ran after them, down one corridor, through another. The chase carried her into the older West Wing. She reached a narrow hallway lined with antique mirrors. The stranger had vanished. Her breathing echoed softly. Too quiet, then a reflection moved. Not hers. Behind her. She turned. A masked attacker lunged from the shadows, a knife flashing in the dim light. Elara barely stumbled backward in time. The blade sliced through the sleeve of her jacket. She screamed. The attacker advanced again. Before the second strike landed, a gunshot thundered through the hallway. The knife clattered to the floor. The masked figure staggered, clutching their shoulder. Damian. He emerged from the opposite end of the corridor, weapon raised. "Drop it!" The attacker ignored the order. Instead, they hurled a small smoke canister onto the floor. White smoke exploded through the hallway. Visibility vanished. Marcus and 2 guards rushed in seconds later. By the time the smoke cleared, the attacker was gone. Only a trail of blood remained. Damian turned immediately to Elara. "Are you hurt?" She looked at the tear in her sleeve. A thin line of blood crossed her forearm. "It's just a cut." He gently took her wrist, examining the wound. His jaw tightened. "He was aiming for your throat." She looked into his eyes. "You came fast. I heard you scream." His answer was simple, immediate, as if there had never been any question that he would come. Marcus crouched beside the blood trail. He escaped through the servant passage. Damian frowned. "The hidden corridor." Marcus nodded. "Only staff know it exists." Sophia arrived moments later. "That confirms it. The traitor isn't just helping Victor. They're living here." That evening, the mansion felt colder than ever. Extra guards stood outside Elena's room. New cameras had been installed. Marcus personally inspected every hallway. Despite all the security, no one felt safe. Unable to sleep, Elara walked onto her balcony. The night was clear. Stars glittered above the mountains. She heard footsteps behind her. Damian. He carried 2 cups of tea. "I thought you might still be awake." She accepted one. "Thank you." For a while, they stood in comfortable silence. Finally, Elara spoke. "When he attacked me," she looked down at the steaming cup, "I thought I was going to die." Damian's voice remained calm. "You didn't. Because you were there." He looked out across the forest. "I'll always come if I can." The words lingered between them. No promises, no grand declarations, just quiet certainty. Elena studied him for a long moment. Then, almost without realizing it, she reached out. Her fingers brushed lightly against the back of his hand. He didn't pull away. Neither did she. The touch lasted only a heartbeat, yet it spoke more loudly than either of them was ready to admit. Far beyond the estate walls, hidden in the darkness. A camera lens focused on the balcony. A finger pressed the shutter. Click. Someone had just captured the moment. And somewhere else, Victor Kane smiled as the photograph appeared on his screen. "Excellent," he murmured. "They're becoming predictable." He closed the image. Now it's time to make Damian choose. Morning arrived beneath heavy clouds. The photograph from the previous night reached Victor Kane before sunrise. He studied the image in silence. Damian and Elena, standing close together on the balcony. Not lovers, not yet, but close enough. Victor smiled. Feelings make intelligent people careless. He slid the photograph across the table to the man seated opposite him. "Remind me, what breaks first?" The man answered without hesitation. "Trust." At Blackthorn Estate, Damian had barely slept. The attempted attack inside the mansion meant one thing. The traitor had access to the estate's oldest passageways. That knowledge belonged to only a handful of people. Marcus spread several personnel files across the command table. "I've narrowed it to 6. Damian scanned the names. "They've all been here for years." "Exactly." Sophia looked up, which means Victor didn't place someone here recently. He turned someone who was already loyal. The realization was worse. Elena entered quietly. "You wanted to see me?" Damian nodded. "We're changing your routine." She sighed. "I was wondering how long it would take." "No more walking the estate alone. I wasn't planning to after yesterday." A faint smile flickered across Marcus's face. "Progress." Elena caught it and rolled her eyes. "I heard that." The tension in the room eased, if only for a second. Later that afternoon, Damian led Elena through a corridor she had never seen before. "This wing isn't on the floor plans." "It wasn't meant to be." The hallway ended at an old oak door reinforced with steel. Damian unlocked it with a small brass key. Inside was a modest room. A fireplace, a desk, shelves filled with journals and maps. Unlike the grand library, this room felt personal. "What is this place?" Elena asked. "My father's study." She looked around carefully. "You've kept it exactly the same. I never had the heart to change it." Her gaze settled on a faded chessboard resting on a side table. 2 pieces remained in the middle of a game. "It looks unfinished?" "It is." He stepped beside her. "My father left before we could finish it." Elena looked at the board. "So you never moved the pieces?" "No." Silence settled over the room. She understood. Some losses remained frozen in time. As they prepared to leave, Elena noticed a loose floorboard beneath the desk. "Wait." She knelt and gently pressed it. The board shifted. "There shouldn't be a gap here." Damian frowned. He crouched beside her and carefully lifted the old plank. Beneath it lay a small metal box. Dust covered its lid. "I've never seen this." He opened it slowly. Inside were several letters tied together with a blue ribbon and one sealed envelope. Across the front, written in familiar handwriting, were the words, "For Eleanor." Her breath caught. "My father's writing." Damian handed her the envelope without opening it. "It's yours." Her fingers trembled as she carefully broke the seal. Inside was a single page. She began to read. "My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, then events have unfolded in ways I prayed they never would. You may believe many terrible things about Damian Blackthorn. Do not judge him by the stories others tell. Judge him by the choices he makes when your life is in danger. If he is still protecting you, then he has remained the man I trusted with everything." Tears blurred the final lines. She lowered the letter slowly. The room was completely silent. Damian hadn't moved. He hadn't tried to read over her shoulder. He simply waited. "You knew this letter existed?" she whispered. "No." "You didn't hide it?" "No." She looked into his eyes. For the first time, she saw no deception, only patience and quiet sorrow. Without thinking, she stepped closer. "So many years." Her voice broke. "I wasted so many years hating you. You didn't know. I accused you. You had every reason." She shook her head. "No." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I never even gave you a chance." Damian hesitated for only a moment. Then he gently offered her a clean handkerchief. She laughed softly through her tears. "That's a very old-fashioned solution. It still works." She accepted it. Their hands brushed briefly. Neither pulled away immediately. The moment was interrupted by hurried footsteps. Marcus appeared in the doorway. His expression was grim. "Boss." Damian turned. "What happened?" Marcus looked from Damian to Elara before speaking. "We've identified the traitor." "Who is it?" Marcus's voice was heavy. "It's..." He swallowed. "Evelyn." Elara stared at him. "The housekeeper?" Marcus nodded slowly. "We searched her room." "What did you find?" "A hidden radio, maps of the estate, and recent messages sent directly to Victor Kane." Elara couldn't believe it. The gentle old woman who had spoken kindly to her, the woman who remembered her as a little girl, had been secretly working for the enemy. Or so it seemed. Outside the study, unseen by any of them, a shadow slipped silently down the corridor. Someone had been listening, and whoever the real traitor was, they had just found the perfect person to frame. The command room was silent. Marcus placed a sealed evidence bag on the table. Inside lay a compact radio transmitter, several coded messages, a hand-drawn map of Blackthorn Estate, and a ring engraved with Victor Kane's wolf insignia. Elara stared at the items. They were really in Evelyn's room? Marcus nodded. "My team found them hidden beneath the floorboards." Sophia folded her arms. "It doesn't look good." Damian didn't answer. Instead, he continued studying the evidence. His expression revealed nothing. An hour later, Evelyn was escorted into the study. She looked frightened, confused, not angry. 2 guards remained beside the door. Damian dismissed everyone except Marcus, Sophia, and Elara. The old woman looked at Damian with tears in her eyes. "You think I betrayed you?" "I think someone wants me to believe you did." Marcus looked surprised. "So you don't think she's guilty?" Damian picked up the evidence bag. "This is too obvious." He turned toward Evelyn. "If you've served this family for 30 years, why would you suddenly start leaving evidence behind?" Evelyn slowly shook her head. "I wouldn't. I've made mistakes in my life, but never that one." Her voice trembled. "I raised you after your mother died. I changed your bandages. I taught you how to tie a necktie before your first school dance." A faint sadness crossed Damian's face. "I remember." "You really think I'd sell you to Victor?" He looked into her eyes. "No." The room fell quiet. Marcus frowned. "Then someone planted everything." Damian nodded. "Exactly." Sophia spoke softly. "Who had access to Evelyn's room?" Marcus immediately began reviewing the staff list. "Almost everyone." "No," Damian corrected. "Think smaller. Who knew we'd search her room?" Marcus stopped. Only 4 people had attended the meeting. Damian, Marcus, Sophia, and Eleanor. Marcus looked up. So the real traitor heard our plan. Or someone overheard us. Damian walked toward the door. They're still inside this house. Meanwhile, hidden behind a maintenance corridor, a man quietly removed a security uniform. He folded it neatly into a locker. Beneath it, he wore the tailored suit of a senior estate administrator. He smiled at his reflection. They're getting closer. He pressed a hidden earpiece. Victor answered almost immediately. Report. They suspect the old woman is innocent. Victor laughed softly. I expected Blackthorn to see through that. So, what now? Victor's voice became colder. Advance to Phase 2. The administrator hesitated. That means, yes, it's time to eliminate Marcus. The line went dead. That evening, Marcus was reviewing security footage alone in the command center. Dozens of camera feeds played simultaneously. He rubbed his tired eyes. Something felt wrong. One of the recordings repeated the same 20 seconds over and over. A loop. Someone had hacked the system. Marcus reached for his radio. Before he could speak, the lights went out. A metallic click echoed behind him. He turned. Too late. A shadow emerged from the darkness. A knife flashed. Marcus twisted at the last second. The blade cut across his side instead of his chest. He drove his shoulder into the attacker, sending both of them crashing into the equipment racks. Monitors shattered. Alarms blared. The attacker fled into the darkness. Marcus staggered after him despite the blood soaking his shirt. Stop! The figure disappeared through a hidden service door. Damian arrived seconds later with Elena close behind. Marcus! He found his friend leaning against the wall, one hand pressed against the wound. I'm fine. You are not. Marcus managed a weak grin. I've had worse. Sophia was already opening a medical kit. As she worked, Marcus looked at Damian. I saw him. You recognized him? Marcus nodded slowly. I couldn't see his face, but I knew his voice. Damian leaned closer. Who was it? Marcus whispered a single name into Damian's ear. Damian's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. No. Marcus nodded. I'm sure. Elena looked between them. Who? Damian remained silent. His face had become unreadable. For the first time, he looked genuinely shaken. Later that night, Damian stood alone in the chapel at the edge of the estate. It was a small stone building his mother had loved. He lit a single candle. The name Marcus had whispered echoed through his mind. Not just a traitor. Someone he had trusted for years. Someone who knew every weakness of Blackthorn Estate. Someone who knew how to destroy him. Outside the chapel, hidden among the trees, the mysterious administrator watched the candlelight through the stained glass windows. He smiled. The mask is about to fall. The chapel was silent. Only the faint glow of a single candle illuminated the old stone walls. Damian stood alone before the altar, his thoughts fixed on Marcus's whispered warning. If Marcus was right, everything was about to change. He closed his eyes for a moment. Not to pray, to think. Back at the mansion, Elena couldn't settle her mind. Marcus was recovering. Sophia refused to leave his side. The entire estate remained on high alert. Yet one question kept returning. Who had Marcus recognized? Damian hadn't told anyone, not even her. She understood why, but she couldn't ignore the growing feeling that time was running out. Unable to sleep, Elena wandered through the east corridor. The halls were empty. A grandfather clock struck midnight. As she passed one of the guest rooms, she heard something, a faint metallic click, almost like a safety being released. She stopped walking. Silence. Then another sound. A floorboard creaked, not behind her, ahead. She slowly stepped toward the partially open door. Inside, moonlight spilled across polished wooden floors. The room appeared empty, until she noticed a shadow reflected in the mirror. Someone was standing behind the curtains, not moving, waiting. Her heart raced. She backed away quietly. Instead of screaming, she ran. The chapel doors burst open. Damian turned instantly. Elara stumbled inside, breathing hard. "Someone's here." His expression sharpened. "Slow down." "I saw someone hiding in the east wing." "Armed?" "I think so." He didn't ask another question. He drew his pistol and took her hand. "Stay behind me." Together they hurried back toward the mansion. The corridors were eerily quiet. Too quiet. Damian signaled 2 guards to circle around. Marcus, despite his injury, appeared at the opposite end of the hallway. "I'm coming." "You should be resting," Damian said. Marcus gave him a dry smile. "I'll rest when this is over." They reached the guest room. The curtains swayed gently in the breeze from an open window. Empty. The intruder had vanished. Marcus checked the window frame. "Fresh boot prints." He climbed down. Damian frowned. "No." He pointed toward the hallway. "The window's a distraction." At that exact moment, a deafening explosion rocked the lower level of the mansion. The lights flickered. Smoke poured from the west corridor. "It was a diversion," Marcus muttered. "They're after something else." Damian sprinted toward the library. His instincts screamed. The hidden study, the letters, the remaining files. He reached the heavy oak door. Locked, untouched. He exhaled. Too soon. A faint ticking sound echoed from inside. Tick, tick, tick. His eyes widened. "Everyone, back." He shoved Elara away from the door. A split second later, the study exploded. The blast tore the door from its hinges. Flames burst into the hallway. The force threw Damian backward. He struck the marble floor hard. Everything went silent. Elena's ears rang. Smoke filled the corridor. She pushed herself to her knees. "Damian!" No answer. The flames spread rapidly. A broken beam had collapsed across his legs. He was unconscious. Without thinking, Elara ran into the burning hallway. "Elara!" Marcus shouted. "It's going to collapse!" She ignored him. The heat stung her skin as she reached Damian. The wooden beam was heavier than she expected. She braced herself, pushed, nothing. She tried again. The beam shifted slightly. "Come on." Her muscles trembled. Smoke burned her lungs. Finally, the beam rolled just enough. She grabbed Damian beneath his shoulders and pulled with everything she had. He barely moved. Another section of the ceiling cracked above them. Marcus rushed forward despite his injury. Together, he and Elara dragged Damian clear just as burning timber crashed onto the spot where he had been lying. The corridor erupted in flames. Minutes later, rain from the estate's fire suppression system soaked everyone. Sophia checked Damian's pulse. "He's breathing." Elara sank against the wall, coughing. Her hands were scraped and blistered, her face streaked with soot. She didn't care. Damian slowly opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was Elara kneeling beside him. "You came back." Her voice shook. "Of course I did." He looked at the burns on her hands. "You could have died. So could you." For a long moment, neither spoke. Around them, guards extinguished the remaining flames. The chaos faded into the background. Damian reached out. His fingers gently closed around her injured hand. "You saved my life." A faint smile touched Elena's lips. I guess we're even now." He looked at her with quiet intensity. "No," his voice was barely above a whisper, "I could never repay this." Before either of them could say another word, Marcus approached. His expression was grim. The explosion wasn't the real objective. Damian looked up. What was? Marcus handed him a small empty fireproof box recovered from the destroyed study. The lock had been expertly opened. Its contents were gone. "What was inside?" Elara asked. Damian stared at the empty box. His face hardened. "The only remaining evidence that could identify everyone involved in your father's murder." Somewhere beyond the estate walls, Victor Kane watched the fire consume part of Blackthorn Manor through a drone's live camera feed. He smiled. "Now, Damian, let's see how much you're willing to lose." The smell of smoke lingered throughout Blackthorn Estate long after the flames were extinguished. Charred wood, wet stone, ash. The grand hallway that had once welcomed guests now bore black scorch marks along its walls. Elara stood outside the ruined study, staring through the broken doorway. The room where so many answers had been hidden was gone. Damian joined her quietly. "You should be resting." She shook her head. "So should you." A faint bandage crossed his forehead where flying debris had struck him. "You saved me. I couldn't leave you there." His eyes remained on the destroyed room. "You still don't understand what that cost you." She frowned. "What do you mean?" "They'll never stop hunting you now." Later that morning, investigators searched every inch of the damaged wing. Marcus limped through the debris, directing the teams. "Careful with that beam. Photograph everything," one of the guards called out. "Sir." Marcus crossed the room. "What did you find?" Beneath a collapsed bookshelf lay a partially burned metal case. The lock had melted. Inside, only ashes remained. Marcus sighed. They got here first. In another part of the mansion, Sophia treated Elena's burned hands. "You were lucky." "I don't feel lucky." Sophia wrapped fresh bandages around her palms. "You know," she smiled gently, "I've worked beside Damian for almost 10 years. And I've never seen him panic." Elara looked up. "He panicked? When he thought he'd lost you?" The words lingered in the quiet room. That afternoon, Marcus entered Damian's office, carrying a recovered hard drive. It survived the fire. Damian took it immediately. "Can it be repaired?" "Our technicians think so." "How long?" "A few hours." Damian nodded. "It may be all we have left." As evening approached, the estate slowly settled. Repair already begun. Broken windows were replaced, security systems restored. On the surface, life continued. Underneath, everyone felt the pressure closing in. Elara wandered into the library. The fire had spared this room. She traced her fingers along the rows of books until she noticed Damian standing near one of the tall windows. "You hide in here a lot." "I think better around books." She smiled. "My father used to say that." "I remember." She walked closer. "Tell me something." "If I can." "What happened to your parents?" He remained silent for several moments. "My mother died when I was 16. I'm sorry." "My father," his voice became distant, "was murdered 3 years later." Elara looked at him. "Victor?" Damian nodded once. "He ordered it." A heavy silence settled between them. "So we've both lost our fathers to the same man." "Yes. And neither of us got justice." "No." For the first time, they weren't standing on opposite sides of the story. They were standing in the same grief. A soft crack of thunder echoed outside. Rain began falling again. The library grew darker. Elena stepped closer to the window. It's strange. What is? When I first came here, she looked at the rain, I spent every moment planning how to escape. And now? She glanced at him. Now I'm afraid of what happens if I leave. Damian didn't answer immediately. Instead, he quietly removed his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. The room had grown cold. You'll catch a chill. She smiled faintly. What about you? I'll survive. Their eyes met. The moment stretched between them, warm, quiet, earned. No dramatic declarations, just growing trust. A loud knock shattered the silence. Marcus entered, holding the repaired hard drive. We recovered one video file. Damian immediately connected it to a secure monitor. The screen flickered, static. Then an old security recording appeared. The date stamp was from the night Michael Hart died. Elena's breath caught. The footage showed her father entering an abandoned warehouse. He wasn't alone. A younger Damian walked beside him. The two men argued briefly, then another figure entered from the shadows. Victor Kane. The recording froze just as Victor raised a handgun. The rest of the file had been corrupted. Elena stared at the screen. You were there. Damian's jaw tightened. Yes. You watched it happen. I tried to stop it. Silent. Then Elena quietly asked the question she had feared for years. Did my father die protecting me? Damian closed his eyes. When he answered, his voice barely rose above a whisper. Yes. The library fell silent. Outside, the rain continued to fall against the windows. Inside, Eleanor finally understood. Her father's last choice had never been about exposing Victor Kane. It had been about saving his daughter. Rain washed over the mountains through the night. By morning, Blackthorn Estate was quiet again. The kind of quiet that always made Damian uneasy. He stood alone in the command room, replaying the damaged security footage. Michael Hart, Victor Kane, the warehouse, the missing final seconds. He watched it again, and again. There had to be something they'd missed. Marcus entered, holding a thin folder. Our technicians recovered fragments from the corrupted file. Damian looked up. Anything useful? Not enough. Marcus placed several still images on the table. Most were blurred. One wasn't. Damian froze, a fourth person, standing in the shadows. Only half of the face was visible, but Damian recognized him immediately. It can't be. Marcus lowered his voice. You know him. Damian nodded slowly. I thought he died 15 years ago. Across the estate, Elena sat in the conservatory with Sophia. She unfolded her father's letter once more. She had read it so many times the paper was beginning to soften at the folds. Sophia poured fresh tea. You've memorized it. I think I have. Elena smiled sadly. I spent years wishing he'd left me one last message. She looked down at the letter. I never imagined it would tell me to trust Damian. Sophia didn't speak. She simply let Elena finish her thoughts. I still have questions. You should. But, she looked toward the window, I don't think he's been lying to hurt me. Sophia gave a small nod. That's an important difference. Later that afternoon, a convoy approached the estate. Marcus watched the security cameras. Boss. Damian joined him. What is it? One vehicle, no escort, no weapons detected. The gates remained closed. A gray-haired man stepped from the car and slowly raised both hands. Marcus frowned. I know him. Damian's eyes narrowed. So do I. 10 minutes later, the man sat inside the library. His clothes were worn. His face carried deep scars, but his eyes were sharp. You've gotten older, Damian. So have you. Elara entered quietly. The stranger looked at her for a long moment. You look just like your mother. She stopped walking. You knew my parents? He nodded. My name is Samuel Cross. I worked with your father. Elena's pulse quickened. You're alive? Victor made sure the world believed otherwise. Damian folded his arms. Why come here now? Samuel leaned forward. Because Victor is done hiding. The room grew still. Samuel reached into his coat very slowly. Marcus instinctively rested a hand near his sidearm. Samuel noticed. I expected that. He removed a small flash drive and placed it on the table. I've spent 15 years collecting evidence. Damian stared at it. Why not release it? Samuel laughed bitterly. Because I wanted to stay alive. Elara spoke softly. What's on it? Names, bank accounts, photographs, and one recording. Damian's voice became quiet. What recording? Samuel looked directly at Elara. The final conversation your father ever had. Her breath caught. No one spoke. Samuel continued. He knew he wasn't leaving that warehouse. He knew Victor planned to kill him. Elara felt tears gathering. Did he? She struggled to finish the question. Did he say anything about me? Samuel's expression softened. He talked about you until the very end. The room fell silent. Before Samuel could continue, the lights flickered. Marcus immediately looked toward the security monitors. Movement! Multiple alerts flashed across the screens. North gate, south wall, roof sensors. They're attacking, Marcus said. Damian shook his head. No. He looked at Samuel. They're after him. Samuel's face turned pale. They found me. The first explosion shook the front gates. Then another. Sirens echoed across the estate. Marcus pressed his radio. All teams to defensive positions. Guards rushed through the halls. The mansion came alive with controlled chaos. Damian turned to Elara. You stay with Sophia. She grabbed his arm. No, Elara. I've hidden long enough. He looked into her determined eyes. Finally, he nodded. Then stay beside me. Marcus opened the library door. Smoke drifted through the entrance hall. Outside, dozens of black vehicles climbed the mountain road. More than ever before. Victor wasn't testing them anymore. He was coming himself. As the gates began to buckle under the assault, Samuel whispered something that made Damian's expression change completely. There isn't just one traitor. Damian stared at him. There are two. The iron gates exploded inward. Black-clad figures poured onto the estate grounds, and somewhere among them, Victor Kane had finally arrived. The shattered front gates crashed to the ground. Metal screamed against stone. Dozens of armed figures spread across the estate with disciplined precision, using the darkness and drifting smoke as cover. Searchlights swept across the grounds. Gunfire erupted. The quiet mountain sanctuary had become a battlefield. Inside the library, Marcus checked the security feeds. They're splitting into 3 teams. Damian's eyes followed the movement on the monitors. They're not trying to take the house. Marcus understood immediately. They're trying to separate us. Damian nodded once. Exactly. He turned toward Elara. You don't leave my side. She met his gaze without hesitation. "I won't." Outside, explosions echoed through the gardens. The sound was closer now. One of the eastern walls had been breached. Guards moved to reinforce the position. Marcus spoke into his radio. "Team Alpha, fall back to the courtyard. Bravo, hold the west entrance." "No one fights alone." Static answered. Then, a familiar voice came through the radio, calm, almost amused. "Good evening, Marcus." Marcus froze. Everyone in the room recognized the voice. Victor Kane. "I've missed these little games." Marcus immediately switched frequencies. "He hacked our communications." Damian remained calm. "Shut the network down. We'll use hand signals only." The mansion lights flickered as emergency power engaged. Sophia escorted Samuel toward a reinforced safe room. As they reached the doorway, Samuel grabbed Damian's arm. "There isn't much time." Damian looked at him. "What is it?" Samuel reached inside his jacket and removed a small leather notebook. It was worn with age. Its cover was stained and cracked. "I've carried this for 15 years. Damian stared at it. "Michael's field journal." Samuel nodded. "I couldn't risk keeping the original evidence together. I separated it. The diary they stole was only half the truth." He placed the notebook into Damian's hands. "Your father trusted me with this," he said to Elena. "He told me that if anything happened, was to give it to the man who would protect you." Elena's eyes filled with emotion. He still believed in Damian. Samuel smiled sadly. He never stopped. A deafening explosion interrupted the moment. Dust rained from the ceiling. Marcus looked toward the hallway. "They're inside." Footsteps echoed through the entrance corridor. Fast, purposeful. The first line of defense had fallen back. Damian slid the journal inside his coat. He looked at Elena. "If we get separated." She shook her head immediately. "We won't." He almost smiled. "You've become very stubborn. I learned from you." For the briefest instant, a warmth passed between them despite the chaos surrounding them. The library doors burst open. 3 masked attackers rushed inside. Marcus reacted first, tackling the nearest one while the guards engaged the others. Books tumbled from shelves, wood splintered, glass shattered. The attackers weren't firing wildly. They moved with military precision. They had trained for this. Damian guided Elena behind a marble pillar. "Stay low." "I'm fine." "I know." Another attacker advanced. Damian intercepted him, forcing the struggle away from Elena. The fight carried them across the room. A chair crashed into the fireplace. Sparks scattered across the floor. Marcus finally disarmed another attacker. "Clear." For a moment, silence. Then one of the masked men laughed, low, confident. "You've already lost." Before anyone could react, he bit down on something hidden between his teeth. Within seconds, he collapsed. Marcus cursed under his breath. Cyanide. The remaining attackers had done the same. None would answer questions. The library was left in stunned silence. Elena looked around at the scattered books and broken furniture. "So much destruction." Damian looked at the fallen attackers. "No." His expression hardened. "This wasn't the objective." Marcus frowned. "What was?" Samuel's face suddenly turned pale. "The journal." Everyone turned. The leather notebook was gone. Damian instinctively reached inside his coat. Empty. His eyes narrowed. "It was taken." "No one came near you," Marcus said. Damian replayed the last few moments in his mind. The struggle, the smoke, the collision. Someone had lifted it without him noticing. Only one person in the room had been close enough. Samuel slowly whispered, "The second traitor." At that exact moment, the emergency radio crackled back to life. Victor Kane's voice echoed through the speakers. "Still chasing ghosts, Damian." Damian picked up the radio. "What do you want?" Victor chuckled. "I already have what I came for. You'll never leave this mountain." "Oh," Victor's voice carried unmistakable satisfaction. "I already have." The transmission ended. Marcus looked toward the security monitors. Every vehicle outside the estate was retreating. The attack had only been a distraction. Damian closed his hand into a fist. Victor hadn't come to conquer Blackthorn Estate. He had come to steal the last piece of Michael Hart's secret, and somehow, someone inside the mansion had helped him do it. Dawn broke over Blackthorn Estate. The smoke had cleared. The silence that followed the attack felt heavier than the gunfire itself. Workers repaired shattered stone walls. Guards replaced damaged cameras. No one celebrated surviving the night. Victor Kane had accomplished his mission, and everyone knew it. Damian stood alone in the ruined library. He picked up one of the books that had fallen during the fight. Its pages were burned around the edges. He set it back on the shelf. Everything could be rebuilt, except lost time. A quiet knock came at the open doorway. Elena. "You've been here for hours." He didn't turn around. "I keep replaying it." "The journal?" He nodded. "I should have seen it coming." She stepped closer. "You couldn't predict everything." "I should have." His voice was calm, but the disappointment beneath it was unmistakable. Marcus entered carrying a tablet. "We've reviewed every camera angle." Damian looked up. "And?" "The power cut during the attack wasn't random." Marcus enlarged one frame. A blurry figure in a security uniform walked behind Damian for less than 2 seconds, then disappeared into the smoke. "The journal was taken here." Damian studied the image. "The uniform?" Marcus nodded. "It belonged to one of our guards." "Where is he now?" Marcus's expression hardened. "Dead. He was found in the woods an hour ago." Elena frowned. "So someone killed him and stole his uniform." Marcus nodded. "Our traitor covered every trace." Later that afternoon, Samuel Cross sat with Damian in the private study. "I owe you an apology." Damian looked at him. "For what?" "I underestimated Victor." Samuel's weathered hands trembled slightly. "I thought bringing the evidence here would keep it safe." "It wasn't your fault." "No." Samuel looked toward the window. "It was mine. If I'd spoken 15 years ago, Michael might still be alive." The room fell silent. Damian finally spoke. "Guilt is a prison." Samuel looked at him. "I've lived in it long enough." Meanwhile, Elena walked through the gardens alone. This time, 2 guards followed at a respectful distance. She stopped beside the old rose bushes her father had planted years before. She knelt, touching one crimson bloom. "So, this is where you came?" A familiar voice answered from behind. "He always said roses bloom best after surviving harsh weather." She smiled faintly. "You remember everything." Damian joined her. "I try to." She stood. The wind carried the scent of roses between them. "I've been thinking." He waited. "I don't want to hide anymore." "You aren't hiding." "I am." She looked directly into his eyes. "Every person who's died, my father." "Your father?" "The guards. They all paid because of Victor." Her voice steadied. "I won't spend the rest of my life running." Damian's expression softened. "What are you asking?" "I'm asking you to let me help." "No." The answer came instantly. She frowned. You didn't even think about it. I have. For days. It's too dangerous. So is breathing near Victor Kane. He didn't smile. Instead, he took a slow breath. If something happened to you... He stopped himself. Elena noticed. What? He looked away toward the mountains. I made a promise. To my father. Yes. And you're afraid you'll break it. He met her eyes again. I'm afraid I already have. Before she could answer, Marcus approached quickly. We intercepted another transmission. Damian turned. From Victor. Marcus handed over a small encrypted receiver. It came on the old military frequency. Damian activated it. Static crackled. Then Victor's unmistakable voice filled the speaker. Good afternoon, Damian. What now? Victor sounded almost cheerful. I've decided to make you an offer. I'm not interested. You will be. A pause. I'll release every remaining witness. I'll hand over copies of Michael Hart's files. I'll disappear forever. Damian remained silent. Victor continued. One condition. Elena's stomach tightened. Victor spoke the words slowly. Elara Hart comes to me. Willingly. The transmission ended. The garden fell silent. Marcus cursed under his breath. It's another trap. Obviously, Damian replied. Elena stared at the receiver. Then quietly she said, What if I go? Both men looked at her. No, Damian said. You didn't let me finish. There is nothing to finish. What if this is the only way to end it? Damian stepped closer. His voice was low but unwavering. I will never trade your life for peace. Elena searched his face. And if I choose it? His gray eyes held hers. You won't choose it. How can you be so sure? Because... He paused, choosing his words carefully. Freedom that costs your life isn't freedom at all. She didn't answer. But later that night, alone in her room, Elena unfolded a map of the surrounding mountains. Her eyes settled on a single location, St. Gabriel Monastery, Victor's meeting place. She quietly folded the map again. A decision was beginning to form, one she knew Damian would never accept. Outside her bedroom door, a shadow slipped silently down the corridor. Someone had watched her studying the map, and within minutes, Victor Kane received a simple message. She's considering coming alone. Victor smiled. The pieces are finally moving exactly where I want them. The mountains were wrapped in fog before sunrise. Blackthorn Estate lay still beneath the pale morning light. Inside her room, Elena folded the map one last time and slid it into the drawer of her bedside table. She had made no decision, not yet, but the thought refused to leave her. If giving herself up could end the bloodshed, wasn't it worth considering? A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Come in. The door opened. Damian stepped inside carrying a breakfast tray. You skipped dinner. She looked at the tray and smiled faintly. So now you're delivering breakfast yourself? I didn't trust anyone else to. He set the tray on a small table near the window. The answer lingered between them. You've barely slept, Elena observed. Neither have you. She couldn't argue. For a moment, they simply watched the morning mist roll across the valley. Finally, Damian spoke. I know what you're thinking. She looked at him. Do you? You're thinking about the monastery. Her silence confirmed it. He sighed. I was hoping I was wrong. You can't protect me forever, she said quietly. I don't intend to. He surprised her with the answer. I intend to end this. And if ending it means sacrificing me? His expression hardened. It doesn't. You don't know that. I know this. He stepped closer. I've buried enough people. I'm not burying you. The words settled heavily in the room. Elena searched his face, every line of exhaustion, every quiet burden he carried. For weeks, she'd watched him risk everything for her, without asking for anything in return. You made a promise to my father, she whispered. Yes. But somewhere along the way, she hesitated. It stopped being only about the promise. Damian didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked out toward the mountains. When I first brought you here, I saw someone I had to protect. He turned back to her. Now, his voice was almost inaudible. I can't imagine this house without you. The admission stole her breath. She took a slow step toward him. So what happens when this is over? I don't know. You always know. Not this time. For the first time since they'd met, the future frightened him more than the fight. A distant roll of thunder echoed through the valley. Rain began tapping softly against the windows. Elena laughed under her breath. It always rains when we have difficult conversations. It seems to. Their eyes met. Neither looked away. She reached out slowly. Her fingers found his hand. He looked down briefly before gently closing his hand around hers. No urgency, no fear, just warmth. You've changed, she said. So have you. I used to think you were incapable of kindness. And now? She smiled. I think you hide it. A little. He allowed himself the smallest smile. The room fell quiet again. The world beyond the windows seemed very far away. Elena stepped one pace closer. So, you're still terrible at smiling. I've been told. I could help. His eyebrow lifted slightly. How? She rose onto her toes and gently pressed a soft kiss against his cheek. She immediately looked away, suddenly embarrassed. There. A little better. Damian stood perfectly still. For a heartbeat, he forgot the war outside. Forgot Victor. Forgot everything except the woman standing in front of him. Slowly, he lifted one hand. His fingertips gently brushed a loose strand of hair away from her face. Elena. She looked up. There was no fear in her eyes now. Only trust. The distance between them disappeared. He gave her every chance to step away. She didn't. Their lips met in a gentle, lingering kiss. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't born from danger or desperation. It was quiet, careful. A promise spoken without words. When they finally parted, they rested their foreheads together for a moment, both smiling softly. Neither of them noticed the rain had grown heavier outside. A sharp knock broke the silence. Marcus opened the door just enough to speak. I'm sorry. His expression told Damian this wasn't something that could wait. We've received another message. Damian reluctantly stepped back. What is it? Marcus handed him an envelope. No postage, no fingerprints, only one sentence written inside. If Elena doesn't arrive by tomorrow night, Samuel Cross dies first. Elena felt the warmth of the moment vanish. Samuel, the last living witness. Victor had made his next move, and, for the first time was no longer on their side. The letter lay open on Damian's desk. If Elena doesn't arrive by tomorrow night, Samuel Cross dies first. No signature, no explanation. It didn't need either. Victor Kane had never made empty threats. Marcus broke the silence. We need to move Samuel. We already have, Sophia replied. No. Marcus shook his head. I mean somewhere Victor doesn't know. Damian stared at the letter. If Victor sent this, he already knows where Samuel is. The realization settled heavily over the room. There had been another leak. Samuel was escorted into the command room moments later. He read the message once, then quietly folded it. "I won't let anyone die because of me." Damian looked at him. "You don't get to make that decision." Samuel smiled sadly. "That's exactly what Michael used to say." The mention of Elena's father silenced the room. Later that afternoon, Elena found Damian standing in the courtyard, watching workers repair the shattered front gates. "You've been avoiding me." "I've been thinking. That's dangerous." He almost smiled. She stepped beside him. "Tell me the truth." "I always try to." "No." She looked directly at him. "The whole truth." He took a slow breath. "If Victor gets Samuel, every witness connected to your father's case will be gone. And then the truth dies with them." She nodded slowly. "So we're running out of time." "Yes." A helicopter landed on the estate's private pad just before sunset. Marcus watched from the balcony. "Our extraction team." Damian joined him. "They're ready?" Marcus nodded. "We can move Samuel tonight." "No roads." "No convoy." "Air only." Damian finally allowed himself a small measure of relief. "Good." As darkness settled over the mountains, Samuel prepared to leave. Elena embraced him briefly. "Thank you." "For what?" "For protecting my father." Samuel smiled. "He protected all of us." He turned to Damian. "Take care of her." Damian answered simply, "I will." The helicopter's rotors began to spin. Rain drifted across the landing pad. Marcus gave the pilot a final signal. Everything was ready. Then, the pilot suddenly raised a pistol before anyone could react. He fired. The bullet struck one of the security officers. Chaos erupted. Marcus tackled Samuel to the ground. Damian pulled Elena behind a concrete barrier. The pilot threw a smoke grenade into the center of the landing pad. Visibility vanished. Gunfire echoed through the smoke. Guards shouted. Someone screamed. 30 seconds later, the smoke began to clear. The helicopter was still there. The pilot was dead. 3 attackers lay wounded, but Samuel was gone. Marcus looked around frantically. "No!" Damian's voice was ice. "Search the grounds! Now!" Teams spread across the estate. Dogs, drones, thermal cameras. Nothing. It was as if Samuel had vanished into the night. An hour later, Marcus replayed the security footage. Every angle, every camera. The kidnapping had taken less than 15 seconds. Professional. Perfectly timed. Marcus clenched his jaw. They knew exactly where we'd stand. Damian didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on one frozen frame. The smoke, the confusion. One guard, opening the side gate from the inside, not forced, opened. Marcus followed Damian's gaze. The second traitor. Damian nodded slowly, yes. Elena entered quietly. "Any news?" "No." She looked at Damian. "I'm sorry." He turned toward her. "This isn't your fault." "It feels like it." He stepped closer. "No." His voice was steady. "This is Victor's choice." "Not yours." She searched his face. "Then what do we do now?" Before Damian could answer, every phone in the command room vibrated at the same time. Marcus picked one up. A live video. Samuel, bound to a chair, bruised, alive. Victor stepped into view beside him. He looked directly into the camera. "Good evening," he smiled. "I believe it's time we stopped sending messages through other people." He leaned closer to Samuel, then back toward the camera. You have 24 hours. He held up a small timer. When it reaches 0, he looked directly into the lens. One of you loses someone you love. The screen went black. Silence filled the room. Marcus slowly lowered the phone. No one spoke. Damian's eyes drifted toward Elara. She already understood. Victor wasn't only threatening Samuel anymore. He had made the battle personal, and somewhere inside Blackthorn Estate. The second traitor was still watching. The countdown began. 23 hours, 58 minutes. The timer on Marcus's tablet seemed louder than the ticking of any clock. Every passing minute brought Samuel Cross closer to death. No one left the command room. Maps covered the table. Satellite images flickered across the monitors. Marcus pointed to a cluster of abandoned buildings. Victor recorded the video indoors. Sophia zoomed in. The echo suggests a concrete structure. What about the lighting? Damian asked. Marcus enlarged the image. Industrial fixtures. No natural light. Sophia looked thoughtful. Could be a warehouse. Or an underground bunker. Damian remained silent. Victor had planned this too carefully. If the location were obvious. It wasn't the real location. Elara watched the discussion from across the room. Everyone was searching. Everyone was sacrificing because of her. The thought settled heavily in her chest. She quietly slipped out of the room. No one noticed. She wandered into the chapel at the edge of the estate, the same small stone chapel where Damian often came to think. The candle he had lit days earlier had burned away, leaving only cooled wax behind. She sat alone. Her father's letter rested in her hands. Judge him by the choices he makes when your life is in danger. She whispered the words aloud. He never stops choosing me. A tear slipped down her cheek. And people keep dying because of it. Outside. A familiar voice broke the silence. You shouldn't blame yourself. Damian stood in the doorway. I wasn't hiding very well. No. He walked inside. You've always come here when you're carrying too much. She smiled weakly. You've started predicting me. I've been paying attention. For a long moment, neither spoke. The chapel felt strangely peaceful despite the war beyond its walls. I've been thinking, Elara said quietly. I know. I could go to Victor. Damian's expression immediately hardened. No, you didn't even let me finish. There isn't a version of that sentence I agree with. She stepped closer. What if I could save Samuel? You won't. What if I could stop this? You won't. Frustration flashed across her face. You don't know that. I know Victor. His voice remained calm. He doesn't make bargains. He collects victims. She lowered her eyes. I'm tired of watching people bleed. So am I. He gently lifted her chin until she looked at him again. But I won't lose you trying to save everyone. Marcus's voice suddenly crackled through Damian's earpiece. Boss, what is it? We found something. Minutes later, the entire team gathered in the command center. Marcus displayed an intercepted message. It had been transmitted only seconds earlier. Package ready for transport. Sophia frowned. Package? Samuel, Marcus answered. Damian looked at the timestamp. They're moving him. Can we trace it? Marcus nodded. Partially. It ends near St. Gabriel Monastery. Elara exchanged a glance with Damian. Victor was drawing them exactly where he'd wanted from the beginning. That evening, security around Elara doubled. 2 guards remained outside her room. Another patrolled the balcony. Marcus personally checked every lock. "No one gets near her," he ordered. Near midnight, the estate was quiet. Too quiet. One of the guards outside Elena's room yawned. The second accepted a cup of coffee from a passing security officer. "Long night?" "It'll be longer." The guard took a drink. Within seconds, his vision blurred. He frowned. "What?" Both guards collapsed almost simultaneously. The security officer calmly removed his cap. It wasn't one of Blackthorn's men. It was the second traitor. Inside her room, Elena had fallen asleep in the chair beside the window. She never heard the door unlock. A dark figure entered without making a sound. A cloth carrying a fast-acting anesthetic covered her nose and mouth. She struggled for only a moment before everything faded into darkness. The intruder caught her before she could fall. He whispered softly, "I'm sorry," then lifted her into his arms. Several minutes later, Damian stopped outside Elena's room. Something felt wrong. The guards, too quiet. He pushed the door open. Empty. The chair lay overturned. The balcony curtains drifted in the night breeze. On the floor, a single silver necklace. The GPS pendant. Its chain had been deliberately broken. Damian picked it up slowly, his pulse hammered in his ears. Marcus arrived moments later. "Boss?" Damian held up the broken pendant. His voice was frighteningly calm. "They've taken her." Marcus's face drained of color. The countdown no longer mattered. Victor had changed the rules. This time, he hadn't kidnapped a witness. He had kidnapped Elena. The broken necklace rested in Damian's palm. Its tiny GPS transmitter had been crushed with deliberate precision. Victor wasn't just taking Elena. He was sending a message. "Come find her." The command room erupted into motion. "Seal every road leading off the mountain," Marcus ordered. "Drones in the air. Thermal scans across the forest." Every monitor lit up with maps and camera feeds. Sophia worked furiously at her keyboard. The kidnappers avoided every fixed camera. They knew exactly where our blind spots were. Damian stood perfectly still. Too still. Marcus recognized the look. His friend wasn't panicking. He was becoming dangerously focused. "Show me every vehicle that left the estate in the last hour." Within seconds, security footage appeared. A maintenance truck rolled through the eastern service gate. Routine. Unremarkable. Marcus frowned. That truck was searched before it left. "It wasn't the truck," Damian replied. He paused the video. "The driver." Marcus leaned closer. The man behind the wheel wore a maintenance uniform. Cap pulled low, face partially hidden. Then, for a single frame, he glanced toward the camera. Marcus inhaled sharply. "I know him." "So do I," Damian said. "The estate administrator." The man who had vanished after the attack. The man Damian had seen changing uniforms. "The second traitor," Marcus muttered. "Miles away." Elena slowly opened her eyes. Her head throbbed. Cold stone pressed against her back. She blinked against the dim light. An abandoned monastery. High-arched ceilings. Broken stained glass windows. Ancient wooden pews covered in dust. Her wrists weren't tied. The door wasn't locked. She stood cautiously. "Hello?" Only echoes answered. Then, slow, deliberate footsteps. Victor Kane emerged from the shadows. His charcoal coat was immaculate despite the crumbling building around him. Silver streaks touched his dark hair. His smile never reached his eyes. "So," he studied her calmly. "We finally meet." Elena refused to step backward. "You've murdered innocent people." Victor tilted his head. "Innocent?" "I've met very few." She glared at him. My father was innocent. For the first time. Victor's smile faded. Your father was many things. Innocent wasn't one of them. Her anger flared. You're lying. Am I? He walked slowly toward one of the broken windows. Michael Hart made choices. So did Damian. And so will you. Back at Blackthorn Estate. Sophia rushed into the command room. I found something. She projected an old architectural blueprint onto the main screen. The original St. Gabriel Monastery. Marcus looked confused. It burned down decades ago. Part of it did. She highlighted a section beneath the main chapel. There are underground tunnels. Damian's eyes narrowed. They're not on modern maps. They were sealed after the war. Marcus looked at Damian. If Victor knows about them, he'll expect us to come through the front. Damian nodded once. So we won't. He turned toward the weapons cabinet. Marcus followed. You can't go alone. I wasn't planning to. Marcus smiled faintly. Good. Because if you had, I was going anyway. Before leaving, Damian paused in the entrance hall. He looked toward the staircase leading to Elena's room. For a brief moment, the mansion felt impossibly empty. Marcus placed a hand on his shoulder. We'll bring her home. Damian looked toward the storm gathering over the mountains. I gave her my word. Inside the monastery. Victor poured 2 cups of tea. He placed one across from Elena. She didn't touch it. I don't drink with murderers. Victor shrugged and took a sip from his own cup. I expected as much. He sat opposite her. You know, he studied her carefully. You remind me of your mother. Elena's jaw tightened. You don't get to speak about her. No? I knew her long before you were born. She stared at him in disbelief. What are you talking about? Victor's expression grew distant. There was a time, when all of us believed we were fighting for something noble. He looked directly into her eyes. Your father. Damian's father. Myself. We were brothers once. The words landed like a blow. Elena searched his face for any sign of deception. She found none. Outside. Rain began to fall. Hidden among the trees surrounding the monastery, Damian and Marcus watched through binoculars. No lights, no visible guards. Marcus whispered, It's too quiet. Damian lowered the binoculars. Exactly. He looked toward the ruined chapel. Victor wants us inside. Marcus checked his weapon one last time. So what's the plan? Damian's eyes remained fixed on the monastery. We go in. But this time, we're the ones setting the trap. Rain poured over the ruined monastery. Thunder rolled across the mountains as Damian and Marcus slipped through the forest, keeping low beneath the cover of darkness. The entrance Sophia had found on the old blueprints was almost invisible, hidden behind thick vines and broken stone. Marcus pulled away the overgrowth. There. A narrow staircase disappeared into the earth. Damian switched on a small flashlight. No radios. Marcus nodded. If Victor is listening, we stay silent. Together they descended into the forgotten tunnels. The air was cold and damp. Water dripped steadily from the ancient stone ceiling. The tunnels smelled of dust and age. Old symbols had been carved into the walls centuries earlier. Marcus glanced around. This place feels like a tomb. Damian answered quietly. It almost became one. Above them, in the monastery's chapel, Elena remained seated across from Victor. She still hadn't touched the tea. Victor didn't seem offended. Instead, he watched the rain through the shattered stained glass windows. You think I'm the villain? You are, perhaps. He smiled faintly. But villains are rarely born. They're created. Eleanor folded her arms. You're trying to justify murder. No, I'm explaining it. Victor stood and walked toward an old stone altar. He rested one hand on it. 30 years ago, there were 4 of us. He began counting on his fingers. Edward Blackthorn, Michael Hart, Samuel Cross, and me. We worked for a covert organization. Our mission was to dismantle an international trafficking and corruption network that had infiltrated governments, corporations, and intelligence agencies. Elena's expression hardened. And then, Victor laughed bitterly. We succeeded. But when powerful people realized what we'd uncovered, they sacrificed us. His voice grew colder. They erased records, declared us criminals, hunted us like animals. My wife was killed. My son disappeared. And your answer was revenge? My answer, he looked directly at her, was justice. Justice doesn't look like this. No, it never does. Below the chapel, Damian and Marcus reached a heavy iron door. It was slightly open. Voices echoed from beyond it. Marcus recognized one immediately. Victor! Damian carefully looked through the narrow gap. He saw Elena, unharmed. Relief washed over him for the briefest instant. Then he noticed something else. Several armed guards hidden in the shadows around the chapel, waiting. Marcus silently counted them. 8, too many for a frontal assault. Damian studied the room. His eyes stopped on the massive wooden support beams above the old bell tower. An idea formed. Inside the chapel. Victor removed a small photograph from his pocket. He handed it to Elena. She hesitated before taking it. The image showed 4 young men standing beside a military jeep. She immediately recognized 2 faces. Her father, Damian's father. The other 2, Samuel Cross and Victor Kane. They were smiling. Friends. It was taken before everything fell apart, Victor said softly. Elena stared at the photograph. They really trusted each other. With their lives. What happened? Victor's eyes darkened. Someone betrayed us. Before Elena could ask who, a loud metallic clang echoed beneath the chapel floor. Victor's head snapped toward the sound. He smiled. Right on time. Damian realized they had been discovered. He drew a slow breath. Marcus looked at him. No more surprises. Damian nodded. No. He kicked the iron door open. Victor! The chapel exploded into movement. Guards raised their weapons. Elena immediately backed away from Victor. Marcus engaged 2 guards near the entrance while Damian advanced straight toward Victor. The old stone chapel echoed with shouts and gunfire. Wood splintered, ancient pews overturned. Victor retreated toward the altar, never losing his composure. I knew you'd come. Damian stopped only a few meters away. Let her go. Victor looked at Elena. I already have. She hesitated only a second before running toward Damian. He caught her, placing himself between her and the gunfire. Are you hurt? She shook her head. I'm okay. For one brief moment, relief crossed his face. Then, a single gunshot echoed through the chapel. Marcus staggered. Blood spread across his shoulder. Damian turned. The shooter wasn't one of Victor's guards. He was wearing a Blackthorn security uniform. The second traitor, the estate administrator. At last, his face was fully visible. Marcus stared at him in disbelief. You? The administrator smiled coldly. It took you long enough. Victor stepped beside him. Ladies and gentlemen, he spread his arms. Allow me to introduce the man who destroyed all of our lives." The traitor smiled. "I've waited 25 years for this moment." The chapel fell silent. Even Damian looked stunned. The real mastermind had finally stepped out of the shadows. The rain hammered against the monastery roof. Broken stained glass windows rattled with every clap of thunder. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The estate administrator lowered his weapon with a calmness that was almost unsettling. His tailored suit was gone. The polite employee who had managed Blackthorn Estate had vanished. Only the man beneath the mask remained. Marcus pressed a hand against his bleeding shoulder. "You," his voice was strained. "Who are you?" The man smiled. "My real name is Adrian Vale." The name meant nothing to Elena, but Damian's expression changed. "I saw your file," he whispered. "You were reported dead." Adrian inclined his head. "A very useful rumor." Victor watched the exchange without interrupting, almost amused. Elena looked between the two men. "You've known each other before?" Damian answered without taking his eyes off Adrian. "My father recruited him." Marcus frowned. "I thought he disappeared during the Eastern operation." "He did." Adrian chuckled. "No, I simply accepted a better offer." Victor smiled faintly. "History remembers betrayal. It rarely remembers why." Elena stepped closer to Damian. "So he's the one who betrayed everyone?" Adrian looked at her. "No." His voice was calm. "I betrayed no one. I chose survival." He slowly walked across the ruined chapel. "The four idealists," he nodded toward the old photograph still lying on the floor, "believed they could expose governments, corporations, and criminal syndicates. They believed truth alone could change the world." He laughed quietly. "It couldn't." Damian's voice turned to ice. "You sold them." "I sold information," Adrian corrected him. "The buyers decided who lived." Victor remained silent, watching, listening, as though he wanted Damian to hear every word. Adrian continued. "Your fathers refused to compromise. They paid the price." He looked directly at Elena. "Your father could have walked away. He chose to protect evidence instead. He chose you." The words struck Elena harder than she expected. Damian took a slow step forward. "This ends tonight." Adrian smiled. "No. It ends when someone finally understands." He reached into his coat. Marcus instantly raised his weapon, but Adrian didn't draw a gun. He produced a thin folder, yellowed with age. Government seals covered the front. He tossed it onto the floor between them. "It contains every surviving name. Politicians, military officers, executives, the people who ordered the operation." Elena stared at it. "So this is what everyone has been dying for." Adrian nodded. "Power." "No," Damian answered. "Truth." Victor sighed. "You still haven't learned." He looked at Elena. "Truth doesn't bring peace. It only changes who starts the next war." Elena met his gaze without fear. "Maybe. But lies guarantee the war never ends." For the first time, Victor looked genuinely surprised. He saw Michael Hart in her, the same quiet conviction, the same refusal to bend. Without warning, Adrian moved. He kicked the folder toward a lantern burning beside the altar. The papers scattered. One page caught fire. Flames spread across the dried documents. "No!" Marcus shouted. Damian lunged forward. Elena dropped beside him, grabbing burning pages before they turned to ash. Victor didn't move. He simply watched, almost relieved, as if destruction had always been inevitable. The burning lantern toppled. Fire raced across the ancient wooden floor. The old monastery groaned. Centuries-old beams cracked overhead. Marcus yelled, "The roof is coming down!" Stone crashed into the center aisle. Dust exploded through the chapel. Guards abandoned their positions. Chaos swallowed everyone. Damian grabbed Elena's hand. "We're leaving." "What about the files?" He looked at the burning papers. "We save what we can." Together they gathered handfuls of surviving pages while Marcus covered them. Sophia and the rescue team burst through the rear entrance, forcing the remaining gunmen to retreat. Victor slowly backed toward a hidden doorway beneath the altar. Damian saw him. "Victor!" Victor paused. He looked back one last time. "This isn't over." Then he disappeared into the collapsing tunnels beneath the monastery. Adrian vanished with him. The hidden passage slammed shut behind them. Outside, the monastery bell tower collapsed into the storm. Stone and timber crashed into the courtyard. Damian, Elena, Marcus, Sophia, and Samuel, rescued from a locked chamber beneath the monastery by the arriving team, escaped only moments before the roof gave way. They stood in the rain, watching the ancient building crumble into ruins. Elena clutched the surviving documents against her chest. She looked at Damian. "We stopped them." He shook his head. "No, we survived them." He looked toward the smoking ruins where Victor and Adrian had disappeared. "They're still out there." As dawn slowly broke over the mountains, the rain finally began to ease. Elena slipped her hand into Damian's. This time, neither of them hesitated. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Far below the monastery, hidden in a tunnel leading deep into the mountain, Victor Kane and Adrian Vale walked into the darkness. Victor glanced back only once. "They think they've won." Adrian smiled. "They've only uncovered the first layer." Ahead of them, a reinforced steel door slowly opened. Beyond it lay rows of servers, files, and photographs. An entire network that stretched far beyond one mountain, far beyond one family. The game had never been about revenge alone. It had always been about something much bigger.
Thank you for listening to the Blackthorn Oath. If Damian and Elara's journey kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Dark Romance, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new original audiobook. Your support helps bring more unforgettable stories of love, mystery, and suspense to life. Until our next story, sleep well, and remember, some promises are forever.